This is the morning of the 7th of August, 2024. Article put up by Fox, written by Christine Parks, published on the 7th. Title: Parents Group Don't Hold Back on Criticizing Harris VP Pick, a slap in the face to parents. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was blasted as a radical by parents groups. Let's listen to this 5-minute clip.
All right, thank you, Bill. Let's go ahead and bring in Florida Congressman, Republican Byron Donalds. He serves on the House Oversight and Financial Services Committee. Sir, thanks for taking time with us during this very busy news hour. A lot of reaction from your Republican colleagues this morning. We're getting some Democratic reaction now. Nancy Pelosi, former House Speaker, was on another channel just now. Want to get your reaction to her take on the Walz pick?
Tim Walz, I know very well. He served in the House. To characterize him as left is so unreal.
This is the same bitch that said that Obama is eligible to be president, okay? This is the same bitch shooting her mouth off. Nancy Pelosi. Let's go back.
It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle. He's a Heartland of America Democrat, and he was the chair of our Veterans Affairs Committee. And I don't want anybody to forget that.
Sir, what's your response to that?
That is the weakest answer from Nancy Pelosi. The reason why she had to pause is because she knows that Tim Walz is a radical progressive. Look, Tim Walz agrees with Nancy Pelosi. He agrees, obviously, with Kamala Harris that what we must have in our country are massively open borders. Tim Walz signed into law driver's licenses for illegal immigrants in Minnesota. He wanted health care for illegal immigrants in Minnesota. This guy is incredibly left-wing. And let's be very clear. The reason why Josh Shapiro is not the pick, and don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the tweet of Jared Moskowitz, Democrat member of Florida, is that the Democrat Party has a massive anti-Semitism problem. That is why they did not pick Josh Shapiro, because it probably would have cost them Michigan and Minnesota. Yeah. So Jewish voters in our country need to look at this very, very clearly. They picked another radical left-wing Democrat who will cater to Hamas and will not actually be supportive of Israel, especially when Israel is facing a very real threat right now in the Middle East.
On that point, sir, there's recent articles about Josh Shapiro supporting private vouchers for schools, which the teachers union does not like. Does it appear that Josh Shapiro was too conservative for Kamala Harris?
I think so. Because, look, Kamala Harris has always believed in the most radical positions possible. When she was in the Senate, she co-sponsored the Green New Deal. She co-sponsored universal health care using Medicaid, the Bernie Sanders plan, which would have been disastrous for private health insurance. It would have taken away private health insurance from 150 million Americans. You know what she did with the southern border, completely radical and out of control. There's a reason why Kamala Harris won't answer questions. What are we, day 16? And there's been not one question and answer session with Kamala Harris and the press, because they are trying to hide her radicalism the same way Nancy Pelosi's trying to hide the radicalism of Tim Walz. Oh, because he was the chair of Veterans Affairs? So what? That doesn't mean anything. What matters is, what did you do when you were a governor, Tim Walz? And what matters is, what did Kamala Harris do when she was vice president and a United States senator? This is a very dangerous ticket, a very liberal ticket, a very progressive ticket. This ticket will leave the American people last at a time where the American people have already been left behind by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
So Governor Walz is not with a terrifically, to put it mildly, a terrifically wide public presence among Americans. 9 out of 10 say they don't know enough about him in order to have an opinion. But he did gain some sort of internet notoriety this week after coining the term weird to describe the Trump ticket, as well as you and your Republican colleagues in the Congress. Is this a case of maybe the Harris campaign going for the shiniest object in the room?
I don't think that's the shiniest object at all. I had no idea who Tim Walz was either, and I'm in politics. I do this for a living. Look, I think it didn't matter if it was him or Tim Kaine. I know people don't remember that name. That was Hillary's vice presidential nominee. He was dull and boring, too. So it doesn't really matter whether you're a shiny object or not. What matters is, what are your policy positions? And I want to tell the American people very clearly, Harris, Walz are not going to fix inflation. They're not going to fix our economy. They will not fix the southern border. And let's be very clear, with what's going on internationally right now, do you really expect Kamala Harris and Tim Walz to bring peace to the Middle East and the world? I don't think so. There's only one person who can do that, and that's Donald J. Trump.
Sir, thank you for your time. Byron Donalds, a Republican out of Florida. Thank you, sir, for jumping on with us during this breaking news.
Vice President Harris's newly tapped running mate, Governor Tim Walz, Democrat, Minnesota, is taking heat from some parents' group who question claims he's pro-family. On Tuesday, Harris announced she had chosen Walz, a former congressman, as her VP in the 2024 race against former President Trump. The Harris campaign lauded Walz's background as a high school teacher, coach, and veteran as delivering for working families. Some parent groups strongly disagree, saying Walz's progressive record on children's health, education, and crime is at odds with the messages that he is an advocate for families. Tim Walz was literally the most anti-parent running mate that Kamala Harris could have chosen. Tiffany Justice, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, told Fox News Digital, "It's just such a slap in the face to parents." Look at this guy. Other bald-headed idiots. Justice and other mom-led parent groups blasted the Democratic governor for signing a law in 2023 that aimed to help out-of-state minors seek sex change surgeries. Opponents said it would strip custody from parents who did not consent for their child to be transitioned. Absolutely insane. Minnesota is welcoming, loving, neighborly state where you are welcome and will be free from discrimination or anything else that we're trying to see in some other states, Walz said at the time, according to Minnesota Public Radio. He also called Republican bullies for banning these controversial treatments for young people in other states. The idea that your child can move into Minnesota and somehow be transitioned behind your back or without your consent or knowledge is nonsense and a true violation of parental rights, Justice reacted. It's absolutely insane. Elizabeth McCauley, a mom of three and co-founder of the Virginia Mavens, accused Walz of taking marching orders from the teachers' union and transgender community when it comes to children's health issues. Whereas many sensible governors are cracking down on money-making mutilations of young children, Governor Walz has ignored the science and the irreparable harm of gender-affirming care and applauded the mutilation of young children and codified it into law. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. With such a wild slate of progressives out to lunch priorities, Walz will be no good for our nation, and especially for parents and families, she told Fox News Digital. Since being tapped as Harris' running mate, Walz also faces fresh scrutiny over his response to George Floyd riots in 2020 and the COVID-19 mandates he imposed that same year. Parents group who spoke to Fox News Digital accused Walz of letting cities burn for days during the riots after locking down schools. Walz is soft on crime, anti-parent, woke candidate who has done more harm than good for the state of Minnesota, McCauley continued. I personally have heartache when I visit my family in Minnesota as the state has gone downhill. What used to be a safe and thriving city to visit, Minneapolis has now become a hotbed of crime. Walz not only condoned the George Floyd rioters, but worked to repair the cities and businesses burned to the ground during the summer of rage, she continued. He didn't work to repair the cities. Walz was a COVID tyrant and locked down Minnesota, except for rioters. Though that was apparently okay, Justice added. He let Minneapolis burn during the riots. He's worse than weird. He's a radical. President of Parents Defending Education, Nicole Kelly, also argued that children's education in Minnesota suffered under Walz's watch. She claimed Walz had prioritized progressive ideology over educational standards in the classroom. Governor Walz's record on education deserves an F if we were to grade it on a curve, Neely told Fox News Digital. Yes, education spending skyrocketed under his administration, but it's worth noting that much of the money isn't making it into the classroom, but has been redirected towards progressive priorities like menstrual products in boys' bathrooms. From ideology, heavy new social studies standards, to the state's new identity politics. Focused ethics studies, Minnesota students are being taught what to think, not how to think. This is really scary, folks. You can read the rest of the article, but you sort of get the picture. This guy is clearly a left-wing radical freak, no different than camel face on her knees. Again, I'm convinced they're going to be bringing in Big Mike because this presidential candidate and this new VP candidate aren't going to cut it. I'll attach the link. Please read it, pass it along, and thanks for listening.